See how a footwear empire was born and rises to fame. You are probably familiar with Nike's successful tagline, "Just do it." It reflects the daring spirit of Nike co-founder Phil Knight in the early stages of his company. This book summary will reveal how Phil stumbled his way to greatness, contacting business people from around the world to break into the running shoe business with no prior preparation. This book summary will also show you how Phil built an iconic brand out of a team of creative misfits, how he stood his ground through 2 major lawsuits, and dealt with a scandal that made headlines worldwide. So, you'll learn what makes the name Nike perfect for a brand of running shoes, a new type of glue that helps factory workers avoid cancer around the world, and what prompted an Olympic coach to experiment with fish skin shoes. The path to success for Nike began with a crazy idea and a journey around the world. Phil Knight had just graduated from business school in 1962. Despite his shyness, he was a terrible salesman. Even so, he never let that deter him from following his vision. He was interested in importing Japanese running shoes and had his eye on the Tiger brand manufactured by the Japanese company Onitsuka. During his time at Stanford Business School, he came up with the idea. No one, not even his professors, classmates, or father, thought much of it at the time. Despite that, Phil traveled across the Pacific to introduce his bold idea to a room full of Japanese investors. As Phil didn't expect the pitch to succeed, he was stunned when the CEO replied that his timing was perfect and asked what company he would be working for. As an absolute novice, he blurted out the name, Blue Ribbon. Onitsuka agreed to send him 300 pairs of Tiger shoes to help him get started. In the months that followed, Phil sold the Japanese shoes out of the trunk of his car. Following signing the deal with Onitsuka, he found inspiration through the things he saw and experienced during his travels. He learned a great deal about the cultures he explored that would influence him in later years. For example, he was profoundly influenced by the Greek Acropolis. Phil came across the Knights, a play by ancient Greek playwright Aristophanes, in which a warrior gives the king a new pair of shoes in the Temple of Nike. In the 1960s, Phil Knight's former running coach Bill Bauerman had to modify the Tiger's original shoes with Blue Ribbon. Almost everyone has someone in their lives who has inspired them. In Phil Knight's case, this was his former running coach, Bill Bauerman. In order to pursue his dreams, Phil needed Bill's approval. Fortunately, Bill was also a shoe dog. People who are shoe-obsessed are known as shoe dogs. Such people understand the importance of shoes to their ability to walk confidently into the future. It was Bill's habit as a coach to experiment with small changes in footwear to see how they would affect his athletes' performance. Using whatever materials he thought would make the shoes an asset instead of a mere necessity, he would tear apart shoes and put them back together. It was his mission to make shoes as light as possible, a feature that later became identical with the Nike brand. The goal was so important to Bill that he once made lighter shoes using codfish skin instead of leather. Upon one of his returns from Japan, Phil sought out Bill, asking him to partner with him at Blue Ribbon. With Bill's agreement, Phil became much more confident. Suddenly, he began to think that his crazy idea might be worthwhile. As a matter of fact, the partnership proved fruitful. It was all about timing. In the early days of Blue Ribbon, Bill's coaching career was gaining traction. Some of his students were to become Olympians. Bill altered the imported Tiger shoes to fit Phil's star runners to help give the brand more exposure, which resulted in Phil selling more pairs. A modified version of Bill's first shoe prototype, the Cortez, was also sent to Onitsuka, offering the company to produce these new, performance-tested shoes. With Cortez as its first sales success, Onitsuka agreed. Through this arrangement, Bill was able to help the company get off the ground. Phil's unconventional, yet brilliant, employees were the main reason Blue Ribbon continued to succeed. Blue Ribbon's early team was made up of eccentrics with talents, and all of them contributed to key decisions. Phil gathered a team of trustworthy employees who became trusting of him as Blue Ribbon grew. However, Blue Ribbon workers weren't your typical corporate types. In reality, the crew was composed of brilliant misfits who made a stellar team. It may have been precisely because they were misfits that they got along so well. Because of this, team members could see past one another's quirks to their true geniuses. Nobody felt compelled to hold back. Phil's vision was believed by the entire Blue Ribbon team from the beginning. A full-time employee, Jeff Johnson, collaborated with Bill Bauerman on designing innovative shoes for the company. In order to keep Blue Ribbon's team strong, Phil held social events, which was his version of a team-building weekend, about a few times a year. Before getting drunk, everyone at these events would yell at each other. It reminded me that no one was too significant to be mocked. While drunken shouting matches were part of Phil's morale-boosting tactics, they weren't the only way. The team members were also involved in many business decisions. As far as his everyday asks were concerned, Phil followed General Patton's advice. Don't tell people how to do things. Instead, let them do what they do and be surprised by the outcome. In fact, Phil never once told Jeff Johnson how to do his job. Jeff Johnson also never once got angry at Phil sending him countless letters about everything from advertising questions to poetry and even jokes. When critical decisions needed to be made, Phil included his team. For example, in 1971, it was decided by some decision makers that the company should stop selling Onitsuka shoes and start making its own. However, the Blue Ribbon brand wasn't suitable for this move, so a successor company was created instead. Rather than branding this brand new company himself, Phil asked his employees to propose its name. They chose Nike. Phil continued with it, remembering what the Temple of Nike had meant to him so many years ago. A lawsuit was filed by Onitsuka, and the government threatened Nike, but the company persisted. The path to fame and fortune is strewn with obstacles and pitfalls for many successful entrepreneurs. In Phil Knight's case, 2 significant lawsuits threatened to put an end to his career. It all began in 1973 when Onitsuka filed a claim against Blue Ribbon. This claim was in relation to costs incurred as a result of a breach of contract involving the production and distribution of Nike shoes by Blue Ribbon. In the United States, Blue Ribbon sued Onitsuka for breach of contract and trademark infringement. Blue Ribbon had an exclusive distribution deal with Tiger's track and field line in the United States. Nonetheless, Phil had a contact at Onitsuka who found out about a Onitsuka executive's plans to travel to America in search of a replacement distributor. With this information in hand, Phil turned his attention to building his new company, Nike. Ultimately, Blue Ribbon obtained a favorable judgment in the lawsuit. According to the judge, he made his decision based on which of the 2 companies was more honest. In this specific case, Blue Ribbon was the more honest partner. The judge ordered Onitsuka to pay damages. It wasn't the first major threat to Phil's career. In 1977, Nike was told it was owed $25 million by the government. Nike's competitors, Keds and Converse, uncovered an obscure American customs law called the American Selling Price Law that charged higher customs duties on certain styles of shoes. Converse and Keds claimed Nike violated the law. However, Phil wasn't planning to back down. As a result of his faith in Nike, Phil handled the stressful situation well. Although Phil wanted the government to stop its claim altogether, he agreed to settle the claim with $9 million as a diplomatic gesture. He felt that if he fought the government tooth and nail, he'd never regain its credibility, something that may be useful to the company in the future. Nike's spirit remained strong despite Phil Knight's fears that an IPO would damage the company's unique culture. He had to overcome several challenges during his ascent to the top. Maintaining his progress was not easy. But how did Nike, as it is known today, grow? Phil knew he didn't want to lose, even though he wasn't always sure what winning meant to him. His fear of disappointing his father and his belief that work should be both playful and meaningful led him to take this approach. Combining these factors made him realize he needed to change or he would be left behind. Taking Nike public could solve some financial problems. However, Phil was hesitant to do so because of his desire to keep the business fun and playful. Phil's business motto was grow or die. This meant that apart from paying himself and his employees a modest salary, all remaining profits were invested in growing the business. Phil's financing strategy left him reliant on banks, which often refused to extend him the large loans he requested. Nissho, a Japanese trading company, provided Nike with the financing it needed instead of the banks during a time of financial hardship. However, the lawsuit for $25 million brought by the government pushed Phil to issue Nike shares in an initial public offering. In spite of this, he still feared that an IPO would cost him control of Nike and its unique culture, turning the company into just another corporate machine. As a result, Phil's associate came up with an innovative strategy to avoid this, ensuring Nike retained control of the company. Today, the company prides itself on its integrity, which is also responsible for its global success. Nike strives to improve factory working conditions and treat sponsored athletes well in line with its values. Nike has always been known for its integrity and energy, and Phil has always required his employees to approach setbacks with the same focus. Customers love Nike for this reason. As of now, Nike is trying to improve labor conditions at its factories. A damaging report on Asian sweatshops was published about the company in the 90s. Nike, like many other corporations, rented space in these factories. As a consequence, the author of the report chose to focus on Nike in order to attract media attention. When Nike attempted to raise wages for its factory workers in one country, a high-ranking government official said higher wages for factory workers would have a negative effect on the economy. Phil and his team, however, knew they had to do better after the shameful disclosure. A water-based bonding agent was developed by the company for attaching uppers to soles of shoes in order to improve factory conditions. This resulted in many benefits. In the past, the rubber room was one of the most cancer-causing areas in a shoe factory. In comparison with Nike's previous bonding agent, the new agent eliminates 97% of its toxins. In fact, Nike even shared this glue with competitors who used it in their factories. Nike's commitment to integrity extends far beyond its factory doors. All of Nike's sponsored athletes are treated like real people, not just advertisements. Many Nike-sponsored athletes have become close friends of Phil because of his respect among them. All Nike athletes, for example, expressed their condolences when Phil's son died in a scuba diving accident. In the years that followed, one athlete in particular became close friends with Phil: Tiger Woods. This book summary emphasizes the following. Shoe giant Nike has humble beginnings and crazy ideas. By believing in your ideas, thinking outside the box, and staying true to your values, you can achieve anything. Believers should surround you. In order to start a profitable business, you need people who believe in you and your idea. People who aren't just interested in the money. If you can find employees who share a real passion for your business, they'll be the most dedicated team members, and they'll stick with you no matter what. If you enjoy watching this video, hit the like button. Our Booksflix.co team has put a lot of work into making this book summary engaging and entertaining. Subscribe for more book summary videos, and hit the bell button to be notified for new videos. Share this video with 5 of your dearest friends as a gift for them to start improving and changing their lives. Comment below what book the Bookflix team should summarize next. Till next time, stay prosperous.